Illegal immigration, cheap labor force are problems everywhere. But the feature of Russia is that it comes from former Soviet republics, where formerly was an ethnic union, solidarity, at least officially proclaimed. Now there is ethnic humiliation and working rights violation. Multiple military conflicts, which took place at the edges of former Soviet Union, led to deterioration of local economies. For an example, an average salary in Tajikistan is $20. That made flows of people move to Russia, where they can possibly earn better money. Internationally, large companies need a cheap labor market, and simultaneously they treat immigrant workers as slaves. It means they use them twice, as workers to do a work and as slaves to avoid paying reasonable wages, keep labor guarantees, providing their rights, etc. To investigate this question, I would like to address several questions to Akhmed ARSAMAKOV, a Chechenian-born historian, a human rights defender who also spent many years in Russian building industry as a master.
Ahmed, please tell what are usual relations between employers and employers. For the employers, the employees are cattle, not people. Please make it clear. They don't get formal documents on their work. They don't get normal living conditions. The employers don't treat them as people. Before you can find a new job, you will have to work for several months for free, because at Moscow it's hard to go out of your organization. There will immediately be a documents check. Gastarbeiter comes illegally, therefore he is forced to live without documents, to live at the same place or work in a cold space without sanitation. I saw only one place where the workers were getting regular payment, 10–15,000 rubles. These were women from Moldavia, one more beautiful than the other, but it immediately became clear to me that besides the usual they are subjected to a sexual exploitation. Besides that, employers are usually bandits, and they employ those who can suffer their treatment and such conditions. And the conditions for these employers themselves are created artificially by the state, so they don't need to be good professionals nor anything, they only need a state defense. A competent person would not get contract. I worked in 4 organizations, but I left each of them because it was unbearable to work there. This is the reason why these buildings ever fall. I worked as a superintendent, and I had 100 workers, but I had to do many jobs myself. This is also the reason why these elite houses, where each square meter costs $2,500 US, are so awful. How can it be elite if we workers are ever afraid that the wall can fall? Okay, how can these employers avoid the responsibility? There exists a system, and the one who is in this system is taken out of the responsibility before the law. Revisors and militia get bribes. But because the company owner is free of duties to pay wages, provide working guarantees, it's easier to share income with the others in the system. And this one knows that this system is working for him, and without the system, he would not and will not be an owner. Don't they anyhow try to protest, these gastarbeiters, to defend their rights? No, loves. They are afraid even to make any sound. I get an impression that there in Tajikistan and Uzbekistan they are all dying of hunger, if they agree to suffer such unhuman humiliations. They don't even discuss such problems between each other. Usually the recruiters from other companies come to the building fences on their cars. So the workers come up to a building and simulate as if they were working, but in fact they look all day long beneath if they are recruiters to another company. And what about Russians? The matter is that Russian employers don't need Russian workers. For an example, workers from Moldavia would never stand up to demand their wages, would never heighten their voice. Russian workers have much less chances because employers have a negative anticipation about them. My family lives in Tver region as Chechenian refugees, and I see that there are about 90% unemployment, although the government says it's 6%. This is the reason why I think that the government policy in Russia is directed against its own people, because they create such conditions for the companies.
When will the shift happen described by Naomi Klein in respect to Western nations, from an attitude they are getting our jobs to more human, our corporations are stealing their lives?
What do you think in regard to the problem of gastarbeiters? I think we will not be able to live without them, because many of working places at us are just unemployed. There is another thing, that there can be conflicts on the ground of cultural differences. But here we must, on the one hand, understand other people a little bit, and on the other hand, behave as humans. What can I say? It's a pity about people. They should give people opportunities to earn at home instead of driving them out from here. Simultaneously, they occupy working places here in Russia, so that someone else from Russia cannot earn money. Therefore, this all is very ambiguous. I personally don't relate to them to gastarbeiters, but in fact, on the one side, the Moscow government needs working force, on the other side, it offends them in words in order to express solidarity with the most reactionary part of the population. For that reason, it would be possible to say whether it's good or not if the government had any certain opinion.